Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order of the Washoe County Planning Commission of Wednesday, January 2nd. Determination of a quorum, please.
Sarah Savilicek.
Here.
Larry Chesney.
Present.
James Barnes is not here. Thomas Bruce.
Present.
Francine Donchik.
Present.
Philip Horan.
Here.
Michael Lawson.
Present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum present. Francine, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Lloyd, if you could read for us the ethics law announcement.
Most decisions rendered by the Planning Commission are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Planning Commission and you want to appeal its action, you may do so in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is signed by the Planning Commission Chair and/or the Secretary of the Planning Commission, filed with the Secretary of the Planning Commission, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and application fee.
Mr. Lloyd, that was the appeals procedure. If you could read for us the ethics now.
All right. Commissioners are reminded that if, with respect to any matter or any person coming before the commission today, 1, you have received a gift or loan, 2, you have a pecuniary interest, 3, you have a commitment in a private capacity such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship, or 4, you provided representation or counsel before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered, you must disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. And you must furthermore abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it is clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Commissioners are also reminded that under the Planning Commission rules, if you have had any contact outside this meeting with any persons interested in a matter coming before the commission today, you should disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting.
Thank you. Do we have any general public comment?
No public comment.
Thank you. Moving on then to item 6, approval of the agenda. I'll entertain
Madam Agenda, I make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Donchak and seconded by Commissioner Chesney. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 7, possible action to approve November 7th draft minutes.
Move to approve the draft minutes for the workshop.
Motion to second.
That would, no, draft minutes for November 7th. I'm going to take each item separately. Commissioner Chesney?
Yes, November 7th.
Okay, because you said workshop, so that's October 29th.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And I amend it for the November 7th
All
meeting.
right.
Moved by Commissioner Chesney and seconded by Commissioner Donchak to approve the minutes for November 7th. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now, a motion to approve the October 29th.
Move to approve the October training workshop minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Chesney and seconded by Commissioner Bruce. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And I abstain, Madam Chair, because I was unable to attend.
Thank you. So it's noted that motion carries with 2 abstentions. We're now to item 8, possible action to approve a resolution of appreciation of service for Bob Webb and to authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Planning Commission. Mr. Webb, I will come down there and read this proclamation.
Usually used to do that.
Bob's saying this is long. So this is a resolution in appreciation of service for Bob Webb from 1988 to 2019. Whereas Bob Webb joined the Department of Comprehensive Planning in November of 1988 as assistant planner. I've probably known you since 1988, yes. Whereas Bob was promoted to planner with the Department of Comprehensive Planning in 1990, community coordinator with the Department of Comprehensive Planning in 1992, and planning manager in 1999. Whereas Bob served as the Washoe County Secretary to the Planning Commission, the Washoe County Secretary to the Board of Adjustments, the Planning Section Chief to the Regional Emergency Operations Center, and serves on the Regional ASLA team. Whereas Bob's work with the Citizens Advisory Board was always conducted with the utmost professionalism and embodied citizen engagement. Whereas Bob promoted a professional work environment and put the highest priority on providing excellent public service. Whereas Bob's dedication to public safety included being one of the first people called to the Regional Emergency Operations Center when conditions of nature warranted and when tragedy struck. Whereas Bob continually offered to impart his wisdom and teaching to all of his coworkers, planning commissioners, Board of Adjustment members, county commissioners, and the public. He was always attentive and able to answer questions with clarity and precision. Whereas Bob was hardworking, conscientious, and good with the details, providing guidance and insight to all, and was thoughtful, sharing a good and kind word. Whereas Bob's encyclopedic institutional knowledge should always be counted on to make everyone else's job easier. Whereas Bob was always prepared for work with extraordinary effectiveness, he was always dependable and consistent and remained a model to his fellow staff members. Whereas Bob perpetuation of sound planning fundamentals are a credit to and evaluate the planning profession. Whereas Bob's sense of humor and uncanny ability to clarify complex projects is irreplaceable. Whereas Bob helped create a warm and welcoming workplace by promoting and participating in social activities amongst staff, including stupor parties, pig dog, elf bowling, and Santa's helper. I'll have to ask you about that. Whereas Bob always shared his knowledge, dedication, and stewardship to his work and citizens of Washoe County, he approached issues with professionalism, competency, and open dialogue to engage all opinions. He remained principled and collaborative, always seeking optimal solutions, even in the most difficult of circumstances. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Washoe County Planning Commission does hereby commend Bob Webb for his extraordinary concern and devotion to the citizens of Washoe County through his service to Washoe County in the planning profession, and be it further resolved that the Washoe County Planning Commission will sorely miss the unique contributions of Bob Webb to sound and citizen-based planning in Washoe County, and further extends to Bob's its best wishes for a happy and prosperous future. Adopted the second day of January 2019. Thank you.
We're just talking if we do protocol, if I'm going to say anything, or wait till Chair Savilicek gets up there. So I'm going to wait until you make the vote, because then, you could not approve the resolution, and I would leave, and that'd be good. Don't run.
Thank you, Commissioners. I will entertain a motion to accept.
I make a motion, Madam Chair.
Is there a second?
I would,
Okay. It's been
I
moved.
third it.
I think you got ahead of Commissioner Chesney this time. It's been moved by Commissioner Donchek and seconded by Commissioner Hand to adopt this resolution. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Mr. Webb.
Thank you. It's actually a great honor, particularly for the current planning commissioners, all of you now that Commissioner Barnes has showed up for the record. And I will say that I was proud to serve with you as your staff support for the many meetings that we had and not so many that we had. Your dedication to public service really sets a bar high that I've tried to emulate. Because as you're there as the citizen representatives for all those behind me in the audience and those who are not listening, I could say on TV, but most of them are going to be online. That's really a commendable effort, and I applaud you for that, and that's why I was proud to serve in that capacity. I've told many people that what I'm going to miss most about the county is really those that I work with, and that includes all of you as planning commissioners. Because again, it was my honor to work with you, to listen to your deliberations, your quiet thoughts, and not so quiet thoughts and sometimes. But I was rest assured that no matter what decision came out of you as a planning commission, it was a considered decision that in the end was your best input and your thoughts based on what you had received from us as staff, but more importantly, keeping the community in mind, because that's who you represent. So I thank you for the opportunity to participate. It has been fun. I was actually reflecting that the first time I was here was a couple of years ago. And at that time, our audio visuals included that window right back there. The big one was actually where you had the 35 millimeter slide projector, and you projected on a screen that would lower on this side. And you had somebody up there who was actually using the 35 millimeter projector because we didn't have a remote, and you had to give them hand signals for them to progress. So we've come a long ways, and that's a good way. Over the times that I've dealt with the Planning Commission over these years, I really think you're the epitome. So it's been an honor. I thank you, and I'll remember all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. And as I said, I mean, I did have the privilege of starting with Bob in 1988 when I was first involved with the Citizens Advisory Board. So I have appreciated all of your support and your continual, always keeping the citizens first and foremost in your mind. So thank you very much. Commissioner.
You're the vice chair.
Commissioner Chesney.
I'd like to thank Bob also. I started with the cabs back in 2008, and Bob was instrumental in helping nurture us through the learning process of the cabs, and then later on I was appointed to the Planning Commission, and Bob's always been supportive, and that fantastic professor-like mind of his, of being able to answer the questions right off the top of his head, and then you go and check on him every once in a while, and he was right down to the word, you know. It's just a photographic memory as far as I'm concerned. Anyhow, it's really been a pleasure, Bob. Thank you.
Same, thank you.
Yeah, I did. I can't tell.
No.
I don't go back quite to 1988, but I go back to Board of Adjustment days with Bob, and I always appreciated Bob's quick and thoughtful responses to some of my dumb questions that I asked as I went along. He was always very helpful, and I appreciated the support that he gave to all the boards that I've been on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Bob, I moved here in, 2004, and right after that, I started attending the cabs, and then I got hooked into the cab.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. And so it's been a pleasure, but I think one of my most unique times was that the nuisance ordinance committee that was supposed to go 6 weeks and went, about a year and a half?
Yeah.
So I thank you for all of that, for all the work that you were able to control and get us to get accomplished with that.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to say I started working with the DA's office back in the early 90s and worked with Bob, and he's always been a great pleasure to work with, and like Larry says, I mean, one of the most knowledgeable people I worked with in the entire county. I'd say we're right up there at the very top, so really a great pleasure to work with you, Bob.
You're going to be missed.
Thank you.
Bob, we haven't worked together for more than about a year and a half, but I've been in the planning arena for 40 years. And in that time, I have seldom come across anyone with the humility and the expertise and the desire to be a true public servant, as you have been. And I commend you on those characteristics, and you will be sorely missed, sir.
Thank you.
I'm the newest newbie. I'm trying to.
You turned it back off.
Turn it back off. Hello. I'm the newest newbie, and really what I have to say is that I haven't known you for very long, and I now wish it was longer. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of you. I really mean it. Thank you.
We're now on to item 9. This is a public.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
I'm
not sure-
sorry.
I'm not sure if you missed the public comment portion of this.
I opened it.
Oh, you
And there
did?
was none.
Oh,
there
okay.
was none.
Then my
But now we're on to item 9, and this is a public hearing item. So, Mr. Lloyd, I'll call for the agenda item.
Absolutely. This is Master Plan Amendment, case number WMPA 18-0006, and Regulatory Zone Amendment, case number WRZA 18-0006. This is for the Marshall Ranch project. Do need to let the public know, as well as the Planning Commission, let you know ahead of time that this item was not properly noticed, and as such, we've let the applicant know this has to be continued to a future meeting. So,
Thank you. But I do need to open the public comment section, yes.
Yes.
So since this is a public hearing item, I will open it for public comment. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comment?
Okay, I will close the public comment and bring it back to the board, and that this will be time certain on,
I would recommend that you continue it to the next month. We still obviously have to notice it for the next
okay.
month.
So this will be continued to our February meeting, dependent upon noticing. Okay. Thank you. We are now on to item 8B, I believe is 8B? 9B. Mr. Lloyd, if I could call for this agenda item, please.
This is Master Plan Amendment, case number WMPA 18-0008, the Warm Springs Specific Plan. For possible action, hearing, and discussion, 1, to amend the Warm Springs Specific Plan to eliminate the Appendix G, the financing plan. The financing plan was meant to serve as a mechanism for funding a variety of community infrastructure items in the Warm Springs Specific Plan area over time, including roads, community water and or sewer service, and limited recreation and fire and police facilities. Since 1995, when the plan was adopted, it has required developers to pay fees to the county for future use in the construction of the infrastructure based on a formula per unit. As of April of 2018, around $800,000 had been collected under the financing plan. And 2, to certify the resolution and the proposed master plan amendment in WMPA 18-0008 as set forth in the staff report for submission to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners, and authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Planning Commission. And representing Washoe County in this situation is Senior Planner Roger Pelham.
Okay, since this is a public hearing item, I'm asking for disclosures by commissioners on either ethics or ex parte communications. Seeing none, will,
Madam Chair, I
Commissioner
received,
Chesney, I'm sorry.
I received numerous emails and telephone calls, and I referred them mostly back to the planners.
Okay, thank you. So this isn't a public hearing item. I'm opening the public hearing. We have the staff's presentation.
Good
Mr.
evening,
Pelham.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission. For the record, Roger Pelham with Washoe County Planning. This master plan amendment has been initiated at the direction of the Board of County Commissioners. We anticipate that amendment overall is going to be a two-part process. The first part of the process will be to simply remove the financing plan from the specific plan, and then once this is complete, go back and look at more comprehensively at the entire Warm Springs area plan and the specific plan. So the specific plan was adopted in 1992. A few years later, the financing plan was adopted. The Board of County Commission did direct planning staff to initiate amendment to remove that financing plan in June of last year, and they initiated that amendment in September. I'm sorry, yes, they initiated in September. In the time since it was adopted, the financing plan has been found to be insufficient. The dollars that are collected were set in the early 1990s, and as you might imagine, things have gotten a little bit more expensive. Likewise, it has been found to be unworkable in that it was anticipated that there would be a master developer that would come in and build a lot of this infrastructure. The county would sort of function as a repository, and then they would sort of pay back the master developer for all of the infrastructure that was put in place to help many of the smaller developments. The county was involved in a lawsuit, and as part of that resolution, the Board of County Commissioners did direct staff to return all of the collected funds to the current property owners, about $800,000. Staff, after having the initiated amendment, did hold a public meeting in October, And the comments from that meeting are included on page 2. We did hold that out in the Warm Springs area at the shooting range in the classroom there. Notices for this evening's hearing were sent to about 234 property owners. Legal notice was published on November 21st. Of course, this was anticipated to have been heard last month, but we were snowed out. So the findings. Consistency with the master plan, compatible land uses, response to change conditions. I believe that each of these findings can be made. Probably the most important is we are responding to the change conditions, and that is to say the time that has passed since then, and desired pattern of growth. In and of itself, the financing plan doesn't really affect that. The zoning will more or less remain as it is. Comments on each one of these are page 5 of the staff report. I have a possible motion here, and I'm available for any questions that you might have.
So since this is a public hearing item, I'll open for public comment first and then bring it back to the board for questions and such. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We do. We have Pam Roberts, followed by Susan Ambrose.
We're going to switch if that's okay.
Certainly.
Susan Ambrose. Just wanted to say that ironically, Bob Webb and I worked. Me as a private citizen, and he is the original planner on the Warm Springs Pacific Area Plan, and everything that Mr. Lawson said about Bob Webb, I would concur with. He is a wonderful man, and I appreciated all of the help that he gave the citizens back then when the plan was being formed. So as chair of the Warm Springs Community Task Force, we have done surveys within the spa to 58 residents and another 25 on the periphery of the spa in order to find out what exactly those people, those residents are wanting to see. And one of the big things was they feel like they've been the neglected child of the county. It's been 26 years. There's never, ever been a revision to their Warm Springs Pacific Area Plan. They look around and, well, everybody else gets 5-year revisions. Why are we left out? When there's potential development going to be occurring in the future in our area, the residents are saying, why is the spa continuing to be neglected? So yes, we concur. We do need to remove the finance plan, but the concern of the residents is what happens next. Are we, we're left, we've been in limbo for years and years. They have not had money, maintenance to maintain roads that have not been accepted by Washoe County or by the GID. There's been no stormwater management. They're in a 100-year floodplain. We just had the Perry fire. The burn scars are there. The potential for mudslides and filling in Cottonwood Creek, which flows through the spa, has never been mitigated. So we want to see the plan open for complete revision now so that these people are not left. It's been 6 months since the Board of County Commissioners said and gave direction to the county staff to initiate this process. And here we are 6 months later. So imagine how long it's going to take to revise the Warm Springs Pacific Area Plan. So it needs to start now, that process. And we understand that the commissioners probably are the ones that are going to make that decision, but we would like you to keep in mind that those residents are very concerned about the finance plan goes away, what's going to happen next. And we wanted to, as the task force, thank all of you because we know that you're volunteer capacity and you hear negative things all the time, but we appreciate that you're here to listen to these voices and trying to do what's best for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pam Roberts, followed by Sharon Korn.
My name is Pam Roberts, and I live in the spa. I moved there in August of 2017, and I moved there specifically to live in a rural area of Washoe County. I've lived in other parts of Washoe County, but it was my time to finally move to the rural area. And when I moved there, I was given some disclosures. I was given some CCNRs that had expired. I was given notice that a homeowners association is supposed to take care of the roads, but there was no homeowners association in effect. And, and so I thought that's, okay, we'll have private roads and they probably won't be very well maintained. I had a chance to review the Warm Springs area plan and the Warm Springs specific plan, and I saw that there was a financing plan. And that financing plan was supposed to help ensure that the roads and the flood mitigation, because I did find out we lived in a 100-year flood zone and we had to purchase flood insurance. And that was fine too, because there's this plan. And as the growth continues to happen in that area, there's going to be a plan to take care of those problems. Well, the financing plan that is in there hasn't worked. As Susan mentioned, it's been there for 26 years, and they originally projected that the spa would be 1,741 dwellings, and since 1993, there's probably been 50 new dwellings, mine being one of them. So the financing plan isn't working, but the problem is that the financing plan is a 26-page document that's part of the specific plan. And in the specific plan, it talks, in your Warm Springs area plan, it talks about specific plan areas in general and the Warm Springs specific plan area, and it says things like, all development proposed within the specific plan area must follow the policies and guidelines contained within the Warm Springs specific plan. Well, when you take 26 pages out, the financing plan, which is half of that whole plan, what's left? We're taking something out and not replacing it with anything. So what's the fallback? So I'm thinking, okay, well, isn't that kind of what the staff planner is supposed to do? Is address what happens when the financing plan comes out? So I read his staff report, and I'm trying to find, where is it that he's addressing what's gonna happen to the roads and the infrastructure? And his response is, removal of the financing plan will require the construction of or provision of financial assurances for required improvements at the time of the final approval, rather than at some later indeterminate date. What does that mean? Where's that? Where's that in the specific plan? I don't think it's being addressed, and I ask that you address it.
Thank you.
Sharon Korn, followed by Marshall Todd.
Hello, my name is Sharon Korn. Live in Reno and more specifically out in the Warm Springs, Palomino Valley area. Love it there, love the peace and quiet. That's one of the reasons that we moved there, one of the main reasons. But in looking at, and I also belong to the same task force as Susan and Pam, and just in looking at removing the financing plan, again, that's probably the right thing to do. But to reiterate, I think we need, while the Regional Planning Commission is opening up pretty much all the plans to do a 20-year plan, that I think it's very important that we also open up both the Warm Springs planning area and the Warm Springs specific plan area, because they have to go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, and I think that's over 20 years is long enough time for it not to have been reviewed. So, you know, a lot of people that we surveyed would like to have a moratorium on new building permits. We know there's some that are already out there, but we'd, would like to slow down and back up and just make sure we do the right thing for the community, because we don't want to end up 20 years from now with just hodgepodge stuff happening. And, we want to make it responsible growth because we know it's happening. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Marshall Todd.
Hi, I'm Marshall Todd, and just for disclosure, I'm also a member of the Warm Springs Citizens Group. The only thing that I'm concerned about on this is that when I've been told that when the financing plan is removed, that everything reverts to the developer's handbook that's used throughout the rest of the county. And I just want to make sure that that's the case and that those requirements are enforced as soon as we do this. Because I'd asked for a building moratorium way back when. I know that's a real pain to put into effect. But I think that enforcing the developer's handbook requirements will in effect give us a moratorium unless some large builder comes in and wants to build. So that's my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further public comment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item and hasn't filled out a comment card? Okay, thank you. Closing the public comment and bringing it back to the board for questions, discussion. Commissioner Chesney.
Madam Chair, Roger.
Allow him to get there.
On page 5 of your staff report, you talk about if Appendix G financing plan is removed from Warm Springs, specific plan development will be required to construct or provide financial assurances for required improvements at the time of final approval. What do you mean by final approval? Is it approval of the development map or for certificate of occupancy?
Thank you for the question. Again, for the record, Roger Pelham with Planning and Building. That would be at the approval of, for example, a tentative subdivision map. Before we would allow the first, either the entire map or the first in a series of maps to be recorded, the developer would either have to build or bond for those improvements, just like everywhere else in the county. In the past, the developers have had the opportunity to simply pay into this fund and go with a lesser standard. For example, gravel roads rather than paved roads.
Mm-hmm.
The idea being that eventually all of those roads would be paved and would be built to county standards with, generally speaking, a master developer doing that, and again, the county holding the funds. If we remove the finance plan, they would simply have to do it now, whenever that final map is recorded, rather than, for example, 20 years later,
Exactly.
as we are experiencing currently.
Yeah. Along that line, I'm good for now. Thank
Do you have any other questions? Do you want to keep moving on your questions, or?
Not right now.
Okay. But you do have more?
I don't know.
Okay. Commissioner Horan.
I'll make up my mind as I go along.
But it's not retroactive.
That is correct.
Commissioner Donchak?
Well, I guess I'm just kind of questioning the fact that you want to remove the budget plan now, but you're going to go back and rewrite to replace it and put it in there. Why didn't you have that ready now, if that was where the direction you want us to go?
Sure. The direction at the current time is to remove the financing plan.
Right.
When the specific plan, let me rephrase that, if and when the specific plan is rewritten to a large extent, it may or may not even contain a financing plan. While I have no way to see into the future, I would anticipate that future development would be required to build required improvements at the time that it's approved, rather than allowing them to push off years into the future. So I would anticipate that if there is a finance plan, it would look very, very different. I would also anticipate that the specific plan, again, would look very different in the future. That's a much, much larger conversation to have.
Thank you.
If I may, before I go to other commissioners, Mr. Pelham, this specific plan area, the document in and of itself is extremely dated. And there has not been, to my knowledge and reading through the staff report, there has been little to no action on that plan. And on this specific plan, other than, I mean, you know, there's been a little bit of building, but
I see what
I
you're
mean,
saying.
that's what I mean, is that there's been very little interaction with the way the document is written now. And since this document is extremely dated, and you're saying to me, in your opening statement, it sounded as if we would be hearing this again for when we come to update this, the Warm Springs area plan, as well as maybe this special planning area. But now I just heard you say maybe, maybe not.
Sure.
So if you could offer some clarification.
Certainly. Then I probably misspoke. When I say if and when, I'm just hedging my bets on how this is going to change going forward. It is absolutely planned that once this small bite of the apple is taken, that we're going to come back and we're going to look at the whole apple. That is absolutely what is planned at this time. I have every confidence that that is going to go forward. What the time frame is, I do not know.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with this. I'm prepared to vote in favor of
Okay.
it, so.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bruce.
Oh.
Well, I'll start, and then I'll go to Commissioner Lawson.
Be honest, I said I was the newbie. This is confusing to me as heck. And it's one of those things, I tell my wife, if you want a yes, let me think about it for a while. If you need an immediate answer, it's probably no. That's my comment at this point.
Commissioner Lawson.
Madam Chair, thank you. A couple of things. So Roger, for you, the if-when thing concerns me. Repeal and replace seems out of order to me. And we heard that from the community and the citizens. It seems to me it ought to be replace and then repeal. So I have a lot of trouble with this. And it's specifically, my concern is you have confidence that things will move forward in a timely manner. I'm sure the Board of County Commissioners has confidence things will move forward in a timely manner. It appears to me that we're even talking about this because there's been a lawsuit. And so people are agitated about no action. And I share their concerns. We're here to listen to the community. And so for me, the consequences of removing this are that then there's no sense of urgency to update the area plan. We've taken care of the problem, the lawsuit's dealt with, we've removed the financial plan, so we'll get around to it when we get around to it. And no disrespect, because I appreciate we're all busy people and you are in the planning community. But it concerns me because it has consequence. And for me, 1992, my God, what are we waiting for? So for me, I'm looking at this and saying that if we remove the sense of urgency by dealing with the immediate problem, I don't have confidence we're going to deal with it. And I'd like some assurances. And I guess for me, the only assurance now would be to deny. So my question for you, I know that's a heavy, long lead in. What are the consequences if we vote to deny this motion?
Certainly. I think that the most immediate consequence is then developers would still have the opportunity to pay into this fund, which would then have to be more or less refunded straight back to them, and there would be no opportunity to require the improvements necessary at the time that a final map is recorded. What it does is it takes away our ability to ensure that the improvements are made now.
Theoretical improvements.
No, sir. In the ground.
Really?
If I may,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Lawson, is what this means is when it reverts back to the current development code, is that if the developer comes forward to add to the approved development, then we would have to use current code as of today, which would require all of that information, correct?
That is absolutely correct. If I can give an example of that. In the past, I have personally processed, oh, good grief, probably over a dozen tentative parcel maps, divisions of land of 4 or fewer lots on several different parcels. All of those were able to pay into this fund, and essentially the roads were left as gravel. Recently, we had a series of parcel maps go through, and the conditions of approval require that developer to actually build roadways with pavement to county standards. Removing the finance plan puts us into the position where we can require those improvements to be made now.
Madam Chair, I didn't,
And that's just one example.
clarify for me there, Roger. You said recently you were able to require in this area that the developer immediately pave. And then you're telling me, what I'm hearing you say is you're doing that despite what the financial plan is today.
No, we're doing it in anticipation of the changes. We're doing it in anticipation of these changes.
So you've included conditions of approval with new applications that are predicated on our decision to remove the financial plan. Is that correct?
Yes, essentially it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Understanding, of course, that the development code still applies. This finance plan just gave us sort of an out for an indeterminate period of time. We're getting rid of the opt-out version.
And to my fellow commissioners, I think that you know by reputation that I do not let these items languish. So they will continue to come up, and Mr. Lloyd has been quote-unquote warned is that if staff does not move forward, I will continue to ask as to why this area plan is not coming back to us for revision.
Just
Commissioner Chesney.
Just as in support of what Roger said, I sit on the Parcel Map Review Committee, and the last developments or parcel maps submitted in the SPA did require all the road work to meet county standards, everything to meet county standards. It's in there, and those are cooking right now. So they're in anticipation of us passing.
May I ask a direct question of Commissioner Chesney?
We've got to come back to discussion, I think.
Yeah, we have to come back to discussion,
Okay,
and in an abundance of caution, without legal counsel being present, maybe we could direct that question through Mr. Lloyd, if it regards to the parcel map? Okay. Mr. Lloyd, did you have a comment that?
Just a follow-up to some of the thoughts that Roger was saying. And one thing I think that's being missed here is that this is a matter of timing. I think the idea is simply to remove the financing piece with the understanding that we could do that fairly rapidly. And it was raised earlier that a full discussion, a wholesale change to the specific plan would take quite a bit of time. And so the idea was to remove this piece, because we would like to get rid of it. We don't want, the county doesn't want to take in additional funds. We would rather have the developers come in, require them to meet county code for roadway, storm drain, all of that. And then while that's being removed, this is one of the highest priorities for the department is to bring this back immediately following the update to the regional plan to ensure that it is in conformance with the most recent update. That's the assurance that we can provide, that this is a high priority and we will bring it back. We want to bring it back. We want to open it up to the community and get as much feedback, and we want to work very closely with the community in regards to amending the entire specific plan.
Commissioner Horan.
Is the removal of this the condition of the settlement of this lawsuit that you referred to?
I'm going to refer that to the planning manager. He's more familiar with those provisions than I am.
I am. It's unfortunate that Mr. Edwards is not here, as he could provide a good deal of elaboration on that. It is not a requirement of that court order to remove the financing plan, but it was a requirement to refund those fees, the $800,000 that Mr. Pella mentioned.
Thank you.
For discussion.
Any other? Okay, so no further questions of staff? So we'll open it up for discussion. Commissioner Lawson.
Madam Chair, I'd like to hear Commissioner Chesney's position on this matter.
Okay, a little history. We rewrote the area plan in 2012. It took us 3 years to do it. We considered the specific plan area at the time. And the major field of thought was that nobody could come up with a packaged sewer plant that would work out there. Nobody could come up with a packaged water plant that would work technologically at the time. And so we didn't spend a lot of time on the specific plan area. We had a real battle going on just rewriting the area plan. As I say, it took us 3 years, dozens and dozens of meetings. I was chair of the cab at the time. This is a big deal. We need to get this financial plan out of here and get the responsibility back on the developers today. Get them to pay their fair share. Right now, they claim that they pay way too much and receive nothing for it, so it's time for them to meet the county standards and pay for the improvements, and they're there for the people that are purchasing the properties. The current developments that have happened over there in the floodplain, I think, I don't know how many houses, probably a couple dozen, are sitting over there, and they didn't get a homeowners association. They didn't get a lot of things that were required of them at the time. And all these funds went into this financial plan, and nothing ever happened with it. So it's time to put the burden back on the developer to make it happen now.
May I continue, Madam Chair? A question for Trevor. I heard Rogers say that we wanted to wait until the regional plan was adopted before we began work on the area plan. And is there a legal reason for that, or is it just, I mean, why couldn't we start working on updating the area plan and right now?
Well, I don't think anything would prevent us from working on it up front. Now, keep in mind, we are bound to be in conformance. All of our area plans must be in conformance with the regional plan. And for that reason, we would certainly not want to move ahead and have anything adopted prior to the adoption of the regional plan. And so it would be, what I think the intent is, we don't want to waste any time on something that may or may not be found in conformance ultimately with the regional plan.
And I respect that answer, and thank you for that. And I appreciate everybody's patience with me. I'm just trying to address what I find the predominant concern from the citizenry is, when are we going to get to this? And if there is something that we can do, and I've worked on these plans, and I've worked on a lot of this stuff, there's a lot that can be done in advance of adopting it that makes sense with respect to what exists and what we anticipate in changes with the regional plan. So I think if we can somehow assure the community that we are taking them seriously with replacing the entire plan, then I'm okay. I trust Commissioner Chesney. It's his district, and I know him to represent his people. So I'm good with all of that, but I just am not, boy, I just hate to see us kick this down the road. So I'll finish with that.
If I
Madam Chair.
may,
Thank you.
3 of us do sit on regional, and I'm also on the leadership group of regional planning. The regional plan will be adopted early this year. So, and staff has heard from me over and over and over again that once that's done, then now it comes time for Washoe County is the last in the line to update their Washoe County plan now that we have a regional plan. So you have my absolute assuredness that this will not languish once we have the regional plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I know that, Mr. Edwards, you just arrived late, but we did have if Mr. Lloyd, if you could reiterate the legal question that came up with regards to the settlement on returning the funds.
Absolutely.
And welcome, thank you.
The question had to do with the settlement that came about due to the lawsuit filed with the Warm Springs specific plan, specifically having to do with the financing plan and the refunding of approximately $800,000. And maybe you want to elaborate a little bit on that. The question is whether or not the settlement agreement required the removal of the financing plan. I hope I got that right. Yeah.
Well done.
No, there is no settlement agreement in the case. It's more a matter of the case resolving because all of the claims of the plaintiffs have been dismissed except for the Newells, which is the only two left, as to one 5-acre parcel in the area. And then in addition to that, the county commission voted to refund the money based on an earlier ruling by the judge that the fees involved here are Chapter 278B impact fees. So the way it all began dispute-wise was that the county took the position that these were not impact fees, and some of the neighbors or the community members out there took the position they were. Before any headway could be made by the county commission to make a decision about refunding those, the lawsuit was filed. And so that sort of locked everything up as far as getting the plan amended and all that type of stuff. But the last direction of the county commission before all that happened was that they wanted to see this financing plan scrapped because after a quarter of a century, it just had not come to fruition out there. And it was, well intended at the time, several presidential administrations ago, but it just didn't come to be. And of course, there was the big downturn and all that type of stuff. In fact, there were two, and arguably three, during that era, financial downturns, and that just sort of took the rug out from under the dense development that was needed in order to actually put enough teeth on this to get that infrastructure put in. So there's no requirement that the county do this, but it is the last expressed wish of the county commission was to move forward on getting this done. They didn't provide, all the details of that. It was just a general policy statement. That was about almost 4 years ago now that happened. We've been litigating this now for a good 3.5 years. This has been going on. And so we're here at this point with the county commission having ordered the refunds and expressed their desire that the financing plan be scrapped in whatever detailed way, the planning commission and staff and everybody sees fit to carry out the purposes of the plan. But with their sort of thinking that the financing plan just has not worked. That's a roundabout explanation about kind of how we got here. There were a number of rounds of different briefs and things like that filed in the lawsuit, multiple motions to dismiss filed by the county in the case that were heard, then reheard, and then additional ones on top of that were filed. So it got procedurally kind of complex. But ultimately, the case was technically down to only the Newells were the only two plaintiffs left in the case for their 5-acre parcel. That was it. But the county commission, based on the judge's ruling earlier in the case that these were impact fees, decided that they were going to go along with the ruling of the judge on that issue and then follow the statute, which says with impact fees, if you haven't built the stuff or if the stuff hasn't been built in 10 years, it goes back to the property owners that are currently in the area right now that the impact fees were collected for. So that was the genesis of the order to refund the fees. This is the second piece of that, which is, okay, there's been some recognition this plan has not worked out the way people hoped it would and thought that it would. Refunds have been ordered. What do we do about new developers that come in the time being? We're gonna be refunding money on the one hand and then taking money in on the other, right? We're just digging a hole and filling the hole and digging a hole and filling the hole, so it doesn't make a ton of sense from that standpoint. So that brings this second piece in front of you tonight, which is, how does this get wrapped up all together? That's how we ended up in this spot. I know that there is some thinking about sort of a larger overall amendment process to this area plan, but that is true with respect to a lot of the area plans. It's been a while since they've been updated. Very well that the regional plan is in the middle of being updated. And so there's some of those parts I think have to take place before the larger overhaul could occur. But this is designed to deal with the issue of refunding the money that's already been in there and then getting rid of the second part about possibly taking money in on the front end as developers are coming online, given the plan has shown that it doesn't work all that well. And I can answer more questions. It's very complicated. It got real complicated real fast. It started out as though it was going to be a simple lawsuit, if that's not an oxymoron. it started out that way, and it quickly derailed into complexity, and here we are 3.5 years, almost 4 years later, since the litigation began on this.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Other discussion? Board members? Commissioner Chesney.
I'd like to make a motion.
Certainly.
I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission adopt a resolution contained in Exhibit A of the staff report to amend the master plan as set forth in Master Plan Amendment Case WMPA 18008, having made the following findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110-820-15, Subpart D. I further move to certify the resolution and the proposed master plan amendments in WMPA 18. Wait a minute, I got the wrong one.
No, you're correct. You have the
Okay,
correct one.
okay.
This is 9B, yeah.
Okay. As set forth in the staff report and for the submission of Washoe County Board of Commissioners, and authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Planning Commission.
Madam Chair, I second.
Commissioner Lawson, did you have a? Okay. We have it's been moved by Commissioner Chesney and seconded by Commissioner Doncheck. All those in favor?
Wait,
Aye.
wait.
What?
I can make a comment, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. You certainly can.
Thank you. I thank Mr. Edwards for his comments. I think that was very, very helpful. And I think that while I have concerns about, why we haven't got any plans and area plans and this plan and that plan, we're really talking about the financing plan. And the financing plan has effectively gone away because we've given money back. And as Mr. Edwards said, why would we continue to take money in so we can give it back?
Give it right back.
So I think that, this has been well put together, and everybody's got a concern about the area plan, but I'm certain the chair is going to keep us on task. So I'm going to be supportive of it.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any other comments? It has been moved by Commissioner Chesney and seconded by Commissioner Doncheck. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We're now on to item 9C. If staff would read for the record, please.
This is Development Code Amendment, case number WDCA 18-0006, modification of special use permit. It's for possible action, hearing, and discussion to initiate an amendment to Washoe County Code, Chapter 110, within Section 110, 810, 60, A3 and 4, for modifications of special use permit, to update the reference to the department name in that section to the Planning and Building Division, and to change 2 of the requirements for the director to approve modifications of approved special use permits that involve more than a 10% increase in the floor area covered by existing structures associated with the use, and more than a 10% increase in site area covered by the use, by replacing the word more with the word less, and from other matters necessarily connected therewith and pertaining thereto. If the proposed amendment is initiated, public hearing and further action, possible action to deny or recommend approval of the proposed amendment to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners, and if initiated and approval is recommended, to authorize the chair to sign the resolution to that effect. Representing Washoe County in this case is Planner Julie Olander.
Okay, thank you. Prior to the staff presentation, is there any disclosures by commissioners of ethics or ex parte communication? Okay, we'll bring it back for, I'm opening the public hearing and starting with the staff presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's Julie Olander with Planning and Building. This is a request for both an initiation and to amend the Washoe County Code for the Section 810 concerning special use permits. We're asking to update the department name and then to change the wording from more to less than 10%. So currently the code is laid out, and there are several places where we have the older name, Community Development, so we're requesting to change that to Planning and Building Division. This section of code is asking what the director can do. Currently it says that when there's a building alteration or the use alteration, in both situations it uses the word more than 10%, and that is really incorrect. It should be less. So if there's a situation that comes in and they're asking for a modification to the special use permit, and it's 10% or less, then the director can make that modification. And so this has been in code for a while and has been incorrect for some time. So we're asking to change both number 3 and 4 to the word less, and then under the very beginning of the section 60, to change that to planning and building division, and then, oops, then there's 2 more sections. Oops, there they are. Nope. Sorry, I'm missing a page. I apologize for that. There seems to be missing a slide there. So on section 5 and section 6, there's also the word community development, and we're also requesting that that section be changed to planning and building division. So we're just changing this one section, 81060, which is part of the special use permit section in code. There was an open house held. I held it for this development code update, and then the next one I will present on November 7th. There was one attendee, but that person was concerned about the other development code update that I will present in just a moment. And then also it was noticed in the Reno Gazette. I could make all the findings that's listed on in your staff report on page 4, and I recommend, request that there's an initiation and then also an amendment. So, and this is a possible motion for this item. And if you have any other questions, I'm available.
Okay. Prior to board asking questions, is there any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
Okay, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the board. Is there questions of commissioners to staff? Commissioner Bruce.
You stated that that 10% or less could be approved, but you are saying less than 10%.
I apologize for that.
And what I would suggest, though, is rather than changing more to less, add not in front of more, and then it's 10% or less.
Let's go back.
If you say that they can approve not more than a 10%, then it's 10% or less.
9%.
I mean, I guess you could read it either way. We were just trying to change that one word and.
Well, I'm just saying, otherwise, you can only approve 9.99%, technically, unless you're just going to ignore it. That's my comment, my question.
Mr. Edwards?
Well, it could be done that way. I would say if you wanted to make that change, I would recommend bringing it back if you want to change the language on the amendment. But you're right, it is less than 10% under what is proposed, so it would be, 9.999, et cetera. You're right, so 10% would be the cutoff, and 10% above would have to go, back to the board for especially for a modification. But this is the most glaring typo in the entire development code, and I can't tell you how many conversations have been held on the phone with people about this provision. I think the development community gave up on the idea that this allowed them to get modifications that were like 90% without having to go to the Planning Commission or the Board of Adjustment. Because of the way the code was written. I think it was like such an obvious typo, so this is a necessary cleanup. But I think by now, most of the development community knows about this little glitch in the development code.
Go to Mr. Lloyd.
The language that you see up there, it mirrors fairly closely what you find in state law under minor deviations, which is less than 10%. It doesn't allow you to have 10%, but less than 10%. So we've established a new code about a year ago that allows for a minor deviation of standards when that standard is being deviated by less than 10%. In this situation, however, it's up to the purview of the Planning Commission if that is appropriate or if it should include the actual 10%. We'll leave it at that.
I just wanted to make the observation that if you say less than 10%, you can't say, I can approve 10%. That's all.
So who's going to argue over 100%?
Madam Chair, may I?
I have Commissioner Chesney and then Commissioner Lawson.
I'm just making a statement. I think it's not, it's a degree of error that's not even worth the conversation.
Commissioner Lawson.
I was just going to agree with Commissioner Chesney. I think that bringing this back is a waste of everybody's time. I appreciate the point made by Commissioner Bruce, but I would move to approve it with the language as it is and that there's no significant difference.
Commissioner Doncheck.
The only thing, Julie, that I caught, and I'm sorry I didn't catch it earlier, is that you mentioned on item 5 and 6, well, in 5 and 6, the draft has not been corrected to remove Director of Community Development out and put the new verbiage in, at least on the draft that's in our packets.
And I do apologize, Julie Olander for the record, I do apologize for that. This was, I think, a mistake that we, because this staff report is what you were to see in December, then we updated the staff report, and unfortunately, the staff report that's before you does not have that change in it. However, so that was my error in that respect, that I didn't catch that in the version that you got. It was the one that I thought had been moved forward, but it was
Julie,
not.
I could be wrong because actually I'm using the old original draft. Since I didn't pull the new ones out, I'd highlight it, so it may have been corrected. It's just the original draft that was sent to us.
It's not.
Well, that's the
It's not
draft I
corrected
have
there either?
before me too,
Okay.
and I don't know if,
So that,
okay. Okay, I'm being told by staff it's correct in the resolution,
yeah.
so.
But I do have a question of council and staff with regards to not having that. So I'm just going to let you gentlemen answer that.
It was the one that was, it was the correct one that went out. We did make that change in the noticing. So the notice that went out, because we had the time frame from December to notice that we were changing that section. So that was, the notice that went out is what is stated here, that we were changing the wording from, and in that notice, it doesn't say exactly what's, it says the section, but it doesn't say the exact number. So it says in section, I believe we corrected it in the section.
Yeah, it's actually fine, the way it's written. When it says that section, that means the whole code section. All right, so the subparagraphs are subsections within that. So it's a great point and a great observation. But it does refer to the entire section, with respect to the terminology that's being changed as the director versus the new department name. So you're fine with it as is.
Mr. Lloyd, did you have anything to add?
Nothing to
Okay.
add, thank you.
Commissioner Haran.
Just a minor suggestion. I don't know how many times we've changed the name of the department. Could we just, the next time we make a change, could we say, and its successor departments?
I know you're just being joking, but yes. Any other questions of staff or comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Madam
Matt.
Chair.
Commissioner Chesney.
God, you're fast. I move that after giving reasons consideration to the information contained in the staff report and received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission initiate the amendment to the Washoe County Code Chapter 110, Article 810, Special Use Permits as described in the staff report WDCA 18-0006. Do I need to read the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and received during the public hearing, Washoe County Planning Commission recommend approval of WDCA 18-0006 to amend the Washoe County Code Chapter 110 within Article 810, special use permits. As described in the staff report, for this matter, I further move to authorize the chair to sign the resolution contained in Exhibit A on behalf of the Planning Commission and the Board of, and direct the staff to present the report to the commission of this commission's recommendation to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners within 60 days of today's date. This recommendation for approval is based on all of the following findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.818.15E.
Madam Chair, I second the initiation and the amendment.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded by Commissioner Chesney and seconded by Commissioner Donchak for the initiation and amendment. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We're now on to item 9D, so if staff would
This is
read the
development.
amendment item.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Development Code Amendment, case number WDCA 180007, accessory structures on non-conforming lots. And for possible action, hearing and discussion to initiate an amendment to Washoe County Code, Chapter 110, within Article 306, accessory uses and structures, detached accessory structures, 110-306-10A, lot coverage, to add a requirement regulating lot coverage limitations for accessory structures by specifying that on legal non-conforming lots, when the lot size does not meet the minimum lot size for the actual regulatory zone applicable to the lot, the allowed lot coverage for accessory structures will be based on the regulatory zone thresholds for the next densest regulatory zone for which the actual lot size does not meet the minimum lot size requirements, and for other matters necessarily connected therewith and pertaining thereto. If the proposed amendment is initiated, public hearing and further possible action to deny or recommend approval of the proposed amendment, and if approval is recommended, to authorize the chair to sign a resolution to that effect. And once again, representing Washoe County is Julie Olander.
Prior to the staff presentation, is there any disclosures by commissioners for ethics or ex parte communication? Okay, we'll start with, the public hearing is opened, and we'll begin with the staff presentation.
Good evening, Julie Olander with Planning and Building. This Development Code Amendment is again an initiation and a request for initiation to amend the code. An initiation and a request to amend the code. This came about because there are two interpretations currently, 12.1 and 18.3, that address the concern of non-conforming lots. And what I'm proposing to do is add a second section in 306.10, number 7, to address the legal non-conforming lots. I want to show you a slide here that sort of gives you an idea of what's going on. So we have numerous lots, not a lot, but enough that have caused us to have two interpretations concerning this situation, where you have a non-conforming lot. On the left, you have a lot that is zoned HDR, which is high-density rural, and that property is only a third of an acre. And you have a house on it currently that's 4,200 square feet. Currently, if that property owner wanted to build an accessory unit on that lot under the HDR, the accessory unit can only be they can only have 20% of the lot covered in building. Well, currently, they have more than 20% because currently they have a house that's over 4,200 square feet. So this eliminates that property owner from ever having any accessory structures on the property. This, any accessory garages, sheds, anything, accessory dwelling unit. What the interpretations have allowed us to do is to look at that property as if it's zoned MDS, which is basically the lot size for MDS is a third acre. So if you have property that's zoned medium density suburban, those lot sizes are approximately a third of an acre. And in that situation, under the section 306, they can have up to 50% of their lot covered in building. So in this situation, what the interpretation allows this property to do is to have the house, and it can have up to 7,200 square feet of building footprint. So they can have the house plus an accessory structure. So these interpretations have allowed staff to sort of where these unusual lots, these non-conforming lots that don't meet the size of the lot, what the lot should be by code, to allow these property owners to have accessory units through these interpretations. What this change to the code by adding this section of code, this number 7, putting it in code, codifying what the interpretations have previously allowed staff to do. It's something staff likes to have in code versus have interpretations. It makes it cleaner. Then it's stated, it's been approved by Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. So everybody understands in certain situations where you have these non-conforming lots, and a lot of these lots are created through the common open space development problem situation where those lots are zoned a certain size, but then they come in and do the common open space development, and they get to make the lots smaller in those situations. And that's where we're finding, in this situation, this house is out in Arrow Creek. That's done in a common open space development. The lots were zoned and still are, well, in this situation, is zoned high-density rural. And high-density rural usually are lots that are larger than this, and so we find this situation occurring. And so by approving this, initiating and recommending approval of this development code update, we then eliminate 2 interpretations, one that has been around for quite some time, that primarily addresses general rural lots, and then an interpretation that was put together just more recently that addresses all lots that are non-conforming. I did also, again, had an open house on this on November 7th. There was one attendee interested in this situation, wanting to understand what we are proposing to do for accessory structures. He just basically wanted information, didn't have a strong opinion. He was from the Real Estate Board. Also, it was noticed in the Reno Gazette. I was able to make, staff was able to make the findings on pages 3 and 4 of your staff report. And then I do have provided an initiation and the amendment. And I am available for questions.
Thank you. Before Commissioner questions, do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Is there any questions of commissioners of staff? Commissioner Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Julie, what did you answer to the citizen that asked, why do we have non-conforming lots? Did you tell them that's because of open space and things like that? What was your answer?
Julie Olander, for the record. We have non-conforming lots for a lot of different reasons. We have a lot of properties that are zoned general rural, and currently general rural requires a lot to be 40 acres. We have a lot of lots out there that are smaller than 40 acres that are zoned general rural. That came about because of some changes in zoning, I believe in the late 90s. When we update the zoning code, we can change the density requirements on lots. And that happens over time. So there's lots that have probably been created over the last 20, 30 years that were zoned to certain things. We've changed that zoning to something else, not the density to something else. The zoning remains, but the size of the lot has changed. So I can't say it's just because of the common open space development. There are various reasons. At certain times, probably parcel maps have been done incorrectly, and so lots are zoned a certain way, and then they don't meet the density requirement of the current code. So it's a variety of reasons. It's not just the common open space development.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bruce?
No questions.
Commissioner Chesney? Commissioner Hand? Commissioner Donchek? Commissioner Barnes?
No question.
Okay. With no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam
Commissioner Donchek.
Madam Chair.
Before Commissioner Chesney gets in there.
No, he decided to sit back this time. I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission initiate the amendment to Washoe County Code Chapter 110 within Article 306, accessory uses and structures as described in the staff report for WDCA 18-007. I also move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission recommend for approval of WDCA 18-007 to amend the Washoe County Code 110 within Article 306, accessory uses and structures, as described in the staff report for this matter. I further move that to authorize the chair to sign the resolution contained in Exhibit A on behalf of the Planning Commission and to direct staff to present a report of this commission's recommendation to the Washoe County Board of Planning Commissioners within 60 days of today's date. This recommendation for approval is based on all of the four findings in accordance with Washoe County Code 110.818.15E.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Donchek and seconded by Commissioner Rand. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're now on to item 10, Chair and Commission items. A, future agenda items.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Chesney.
I believe, see, we didn't have a meeting last month due to the weather, or couldn't get a quorum, but we requested that we hear from Truckee Meadows Water and some of the agencies, the wastewater agencies, as to what their capacities were left and where they were headed in planning. Is there any progress on putting something like that together for us?
Yeah, we can certainly invite them to our future meeting, maybe February or March.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Certainly. Okay.
Any other requests? Item B, request for further information from staff.
Madam
Commissioner
Chair, may
Lawson?
I would request a presentation of the process used by staff for reviewing applicant technical reports prepared as part of the staff recommendations to ensure the conclusions are reasonable.
And again, we can certainly invite we can invite the technical experts, specifically from engineering, capital projects, and have that discussion. I think we need to be a little careful how we word that agenda item, and I'll certainly get back in touch with you, Commissioner Lawson. But
Through the chair.
we'll at least have the invitation made available and see what we can have them come and discuss the technical reports.
Could we make that as part of a training session?
Could I,
Commissioner Haran?
could I ask Commissioner Lawson a question? What was your concern?
I'm concerned that I don't understand the process wherein an applicant does a traffic report or a hydrological study or a geological survey or any number of technical reports that go into the support of an applicant's tentative map. When that report is prepared by the applicant's consultant and submitted to staff, I'm not sure what the process is for ensuring the legitimacy of those reports. And so I'm just trying to understand better how staff takes it, who looks at it, what they find, and what criteria they use to ensure that that's done. I've personally prepared a number of applicant technical reports, and there are parameters that you can use for travel forecasting as an example. And I just want to make sure I understand the process the county staff goes through in vetting those reports to ensure that those parameters are consistent with best practice. Does that clarify?
Oh, it does. I thought,
Oh, goodness. So maybe we turn off some mics? Okay.
I understand, and I thought you were talking more about the staff. I support your request about what does our staff do with that outside information. I think that's a good point. I misunderstood what you were saying.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And prior, well now, okay. I think the technical people up there in the little booth have changed the intensity of these microphones. And I'm not sure if people heard Commissioner Bruce, but Commissioner Bruce did indicate that maybe this could be a workshop. But I'm now going to ask council in terms of, and Mr. Lloyd, our role as planning commissioners is to work within Washoe County Code and the reports that are presented to us by staff. Am I correct?
That is correct, and I think when we use the term workshop, I'm a little confused what we would be looking for. I think it may be very helpful for educational for the Planning Commission to see and to understand what staff looks at when we're looking at technical reports, that we do have the resources and the knowledge on staff to look at these reports, and I don't think it would be a problem to provide that information. And certainly, if any of the planning commissioners still have any concerns or questions, you feel free to come down and talk with staff, and we could set up meetings that way as well. Again, I will have the invitation that will be made, and we'll move from there.
Okay, so you'll extend it to planning staff to give us a report on how they vet and review technical reports. Is that a summation?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other requests for information from staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to Director and Legal Counsel items. Item A, report on previous Planning Commission items.
Okay, there's a few things to report on. Since the meeting was canceled last month. Go back to October, the County Commission did approve the van accessible parking standards that was brought to previously to this Planning Commission. The County Commission also heard the appeal on the tentative map for the Lemon Drive Estates. The County Commission upheld that decision unanimously by the Planning Commission and denied that request. The other one, the Marengo Springs Master Plan Amendment and Regulatory Zone Amendment, it was continued from the December BCC meeting, and it will be heard later in the spring. That's all I have.
Item B, legal information and updates. Mr. Edwards?
No, I don't have anything further right now.
Thank you. Moving on to item 12, general public comment. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Yeah, and none to end, I know. Thank you, everyone.